Today, we're going to do something we haven't done in quite a while. That is wild and largely unfounded speculation. We're going to talk about crypto's relationship with the rest of the tech industry and how it would only take one move, one step, one decision for Cardano to blow up worldwide and dwarf the other top five blockchains. Ready? Let's go. Before we get to our wild and unfounded speculation, we're also going to talk about a new revision to the IRS bank account monitoring plan, which might impact all of us, and some new developments on the Chinese real estate developer front. We've got one more large developer defaulting on its obligations, and we've even got a little action with the dragon in Washington causing more trouble for crypto. First up, the White House appears to be changing its position on the dollar amount in transactions and bank accounts that the IRS should be monitoring. This article is called Biden Revises Proposal to Have IRS Monitor Bank Accounts More Closely. Here's how it would work. Look at this terrible picture of Janet Yellen they have in this article. She looks like not the general, in like the 1970s Star Wars, but like the lieutenant, not even like a colonel, but like the lieutenant who walks in the room to make a report to the general, who has the 1970s men's haircut and the kind of like the uniform that they thought would look kind of like space age in the 70s. This is this picture of Janet Yellen. She could be that dude who walks in to report to the space general. It's a terrible picture. Even I felt bad for her when I saw this picture they ran with in this article. Poor Janet Yellen. But the article does give us a little good news. The article says that the White House is at least considering revising this proposal that any transaction in your bank account over $600 would get flagged and kind of passed on to the IRS. If you watched some of the crypto Senate committee proceedings, you probably saw our friend in the Senate, Senator Cynthia Lummis of Wyoming, get after Yellen like crazy over this. She asked, why should Americans transactions be sent to the IRS if they're buying a couch or a cow? Because either one could surpass the $600 threshold. It was actually kind of a tense exchange between her and Janet Yellen. But it looks like the White House is starting to understand that there's quite a bit of resistance to this. And it looks like they're trying to change the $600 threshold to a $10,000 threshold. Of course, all of us in crypto, especially because we're in this phase of the crypto market we're in, and a lot of people, by the end of the year may have large transactions if they sell large amounts of crypto. All of us would like that threshold to be like 10 million or something like that. Don't get me wrong, pay your taxes, but I think we all agree, maybe not all of us, but a lot of us would probably be in favor of even a much higher threshold, because while personally, I do pay all of my taxes on all of my crypto stuff, and I have for many, many years, all the years I've been involved in crypto, in fact, I wouldn't mind it if this threshold was a little bit higher. Anyways, it looks like we've also got some movement in Chinese real estate developer news. So, we've tried to cover what's going on with Evergrande a little bit, just a minimal amount, not too much. This is not a macroeconomics channel, but there are certain macro emerging trends, if you will, certain bits of macro news that I think are interesting enough, and they could be impactful enough if they get too out of control that they're worth us spending a little bit of time on. And I think this thing with Evergrande is definitely one of those things. It's interesting enough, and if it gets out of control because of the magnitude, the dollar figures we're talking about here, it could have an impact on the whole global economy and even on crypto. Here we see not just Evergrande has defaulted on its obligations, not just Evergrande and Fantasia have defaulted, but now Evergrande, Fantasia, and Sinic. These are large Chinese real estate development companies. And as we covered in the channel previously, real estate development is a really big part of the engine of the Chinese economy right now. A lot of people, a lot of investors in China don't trust the equities markets there. Instead, they invest in real estate. And the real estate they really like to invest in is brand new apartments, hence real estate development. The real estate developers come in, they buy land from the local governments, they turn that land into high-rise apartments that people can invest in. And we're talking about intergenerational levels of investment, because the average cost of an apartment in some of these cities is, we've covered on the channel previously, but I think the figure we saw was something like 43 times the average salary. So extremely expensive real estate. And now we're seeing that the biggest among these companies are defaulting on their obligations. But as we've also covered on this channel previously, that's not even the biggest danger. Remember how we said local governments make a lot of money by selling the land to those developers? They can build those high-rise apartments that people love to invest in China right now. Those local governments have debt of their own. And here we see a report in Forbes that Goldman is identifying the level of that debt in local government financing vehicles at 8.2 trillion USD. People were worried about Evergrande and its, 300 billion and change in debt. Goldman's talking about 8.2 trillion in local government debt here. This is problematic when you combine this with the slowdown in real estate development, because like we said, the local governments are making a lot of money from selling that land to these developers. If the developers all fall apart, those sales of land are going to dry up, putting even more pressure on these local governments that have 8.2 trillion in debt. So you're going to see, we are seeing a lot of headlines right now that are either, don't worry, the Evergrande contagion is confined. The Evergrande contagion is under control. There is no contagion. Now we're starting to see these other articles as Fantasia defaulted. Now Sinic is defaulting. The articles are more like, maybe the contagion isn't as under control as we thought. This is probably going to go on for a while. We'll try to keep an eye on it, because I think this could end up being a really big theme that impacts a lot of different things. Now let's get to the crypto proper news. You'll remember a couple of years ago, Facebook came out and expressed that they are very interested in crypto. So interested, they were going to launch this new cryptocurrency called Libra. It was going to be a stable coin of sorts, not just pegged to the dollar though, pegged to a basket of currencies, maybe some securities in there, a bunch of different things. And they were going to have a wallet for Libra called Colibra or something like that. It was kind of confusing nomenclature because the currency in the wallet sounded the same. Then you'll remember Congress got real pissed. They got real angry at Facebook over this. And it was kind of unclear why they were so angry. But I think all of us in crypto, not all of us, a lot of us in crypto, there was kind of a like collective sigh of relief, because while adoption of crypto by that many users, obviously Facebook has a gigantic user base, adoption of crypto by that many users would be great. I think almost everybody in crypto had at least some level of fear that Facebook's execution of crypto would be not what we would want. It might end up being the worst possible execution of a cryptocurrency and wallet that you could imagine. Just because, let's face it, Facebook is not crypto native. And if you think about companies whose reputation seems not to be consistent with a lot of the, let's call it, freedom-loving ethos of crypto, Facebook would tend to pop up on that list for a lot of people. So Zuckerberg gets called before Congress. He has to testify before a committee. Doesn't go so well. They don't launch Libra. Instead, they rename Libra as Diem, and they start calling the wallet, instead of Colibra, they start calling it Novi, which I believe is a combination of Latin words meaning new and way, novus and via. I think I might be misquoting that, but something like that. And they actually launched this Novi wallet this week. They just launched the wallet. And I guess a couple of hours after they launched the wallet, Facebook gets a letter. The letter comes from none other than the Dragon. The Dragon is one of the authors of the letter. So is Senator Brown from Ohio. So is Senator Schatz from Hawaii. And they say Facebook is once again pursuing digital currency plans on an aggressive timeline and has already launched a pilot for a payments infrastructure network. And in fact, Novi has launched a pilot in Guatemala and the US for some users in those countries. And it is not running on Diem, the new Libra. Instead, it is running on Paxos, a stablecoin. And they're doing this in partnership with Coinbase. Coinbase serves as the custody partner. And apparently, users of the Novi wallet can just link their credit card, and then they can get their hands on some Paxos and instantly start sending Paxos around. I think this is very interesting for anybody who might have family back home in Guatemala. I mean, this would be probably a fantastic way to send value back and forth. I think a lot of us who are crypto native, we could find a bunch of different ways to do this, prior to this. But I think for a lot of people who might be familiar with Facebook, but maybe aren't so familiar with crypto, this might try to be one of the easiest ways to send money back home to Guatemala. So for anybody who's using that to transmit funds that way, good for them. But the senators are not happy about it. They say Facebook cannot be trusted to manage a payment system or digital currency when its existing ability to manage risks and keep consumers safe has proven wholly insufficient. We urge you to immediately discontinue your Novi pilot and to commit that you will not bring Diem to market. Of course, this is all happening at the same time as all the Facebook whistleblower stuff before the Senate. So the Senate has not liked Facebook for a long time, and that's kind of coming to a little bit of a crescendo with this whistleblower stuff. So it's a little unclear. What do you do if you're in Facebook's situation? You already know the Senate hates you. At least some significant subsection of the Senate hates you and is going to try to make it as difficult as possible for you to execute on this. But we also know that Facebook has wanted for a long time to enter the crypto space. So Novi, the subdivision of Facebook, I guess, has a spokesperson who says that Novi looks forward to responding to the committee's letter. That'll be interesting. Can't wait to read that. But in the meantime, let's do one of our favorite things here at the Army of Spies. Let's do the wild, unfounded speculation thing. And this is going to be some wild speculation. So don't think I'm presenting this as truth or anything I'm saying is going to happen. We're just saying, what if? This is one of those what if segments. So this little bit of speculation was put together by Army of Spies member Throw Strikes. You guys know the Army of Spies is really all of us together. It's not me. I'm just the one talking on these videos, but it's all of us together trying to figure out what's going on, doing a little analysis of all of the open source information out there. And I think this is a good linkage of two little bits of information. Highly speculative, right? This is unfounded speculation. Very unfounded. Largely unfounded. But there is an interesting there are some interesting matching things here. So this is the video we talked about in yesterday's Army of Spies video, where Shahaf Bar-Geffen gave us some little details about Jed, and we covered those yesterday. We won't go back into those. But after Shahaf Bar-Geffen, who's the CEO of COTI, talks about Jed, he says, one last thing. We're interested in enterprise-grade stablecoins. Like, interesting. Okay, makes sense. You guys are doing Jed, so I can see how you could create an enterprise-grade stablecoin. He says, we're in final discussion with a major client who would like to issue a stablecoin for his enterprise that his user base can use. Not going to say anything till this is fully signed. And you can tell, Shahaf Bar-Geffen has a pretty good poker face. I'm not going to lie. He's the kind of dude, I see him as being very disciplined. If he had a gigantic deal that was going to shock everyone, he seems like the kind of guy who could be very disciplined and wouldn't necessarily reveal his hand until it was all good, till everything was set, till everything was signed, like he said. Could it be something this big? if COTI, if this deal, he says it was a major client. He says it was a major client. And Throw Strikes points out, I may be reaching, but I find it odd that Facebook announces it's going to launch a stablecoin on the same day COTI CEO says they're working on something big. And he gives the exact time mark here, 4:30, if you want to go listen to it for yourself. Could Shahaf Bar-Geffin's poker face be so good that he's sitting on a deal with Facebook and he's acting this calm, cool, and collected about it? It's also interesting, he uses the word he. He says, in final discussion with a major client who would like to issue a stablecoin for his enterprise that his user base can use. He said his and his. If I was talking about Facebook, I think I would probably use the pronoun they, not out of any political considerations, but just because it's such a big company and there would be so many different people you're dealing with. I would probably only say his user base if I was actually dealing with Zuckerberg. There is, in the infinite, Einstein universes, in the infinite number of possible universes, we can imagine a universe in which Shahaf Bar-Geffen has been talking to Mark Zuckerberg about launching a DM stablecoin, that is somehow being launched by COTI. Maybe it has something to do with Cardano and COTI. Maybe it just has something to do with COTI. This would be monumental, crazy news, and it's really too much. It's too much to hope for. Even I wouldn't dare hope for something as gigantic as that. But like Throw Strikes points out, Facebook announced it's going to launch its stablecoin on the same day that we have Shahaf Bar-Geffen talking about an enterprise-grade stablecoin for an enterprise that has a user base that can use it. This could be something as simple as they're going to do a stablecoin for Dish Network. It could be something like that. It could be they're going to do a stablecoin that has something to do with World Mobile. It could be somebody completely unrelated we've never heard about who has nothing to do with Cardano. It could be a COTI-only project. We have no idea. But this is really interesting. And if you think about what the question I posed just a couple of minutes ago, what do you do if you're Facebook and you're facing, no pun intended, you're facing this much opposition from the US Senate? Maybe you do what we've talked about Cardano and IOHK doing. Maybe you reach out to somebody outside of US or EU jurisdiction. Like we've covered ad nauseum on this channel, the dragon and her fellow creatures in DC have made it abundantly clear that they hate crypto, but they especially hate stablecoins. Like among on the scale of hatred, stablecoins are definitely at the very top. I'm not convinced that the dragon even knew what a stablecoin was 12 months ago, but she definitely knows what it is now, and it's definitely the top of her hatred list. That is the thing she hates most. So if you're Facebook, maybe you make the same decision that Cardano and IOHK made. Stablecoins are going to be in the future. They're going to be very useful. But you're going to get massive opposition from the US government and probably from EU regulators as well. So you reach out to somebody outside of those two jurisdictions. And who knows, maybe Facebook somehow came to the same conclusion as IOHK and Cardano. Throw Strikes further points out to us that Facebook already has a Haskell team. They've even got their own logo. Look at this. There's a Facebook Haskell logo. Here they're talking about how they use Haskell to write abuse detection rules as part of a system called Sigma, other things. And he's even got a video of one of Facebook's Haskell developers talking about using Haskell at Facebook. Obviously, this is a stretch Bro Strikes had said that in his post. Hey, this is a stretch. But just imagine this. I think the more important thing here is this makes you think about what would actually happen. If you're in crypto, you probably believe these gigantic tech companies, they're eventually going to do something in crypto. And they could choose to they have giant development teams. They could choose to create their own crypto thing, whatever it is, or they could just partner with people. I mean, Facebook certainly hasn't been averse to acquiring already built things. I don't see why they wouldn't partner with something that's already been built. Can you imagine if Facebook were to partner with a project like Cardano? The user base would instantly explode to a number that would make Cardano dwarf even the other top 5 crypto projects, maybe all of them combined. Maybe the volume of transactions would dwarf all of the other top 5 projects combined. Then you have to start asking questions about scaling. Like, okay, so this could probably only happen after Hydra is fully deployed, but we're pretty far along on Hydra. Maybe these are the kinds of little bits of information you see kind of trickling out, if Facebook were working with a blockchain like Cardano and they were just kind of, cruising along, waiting for the scalability solutions to be laid out. Because if you go through the list of the top 5 projects and you ask yourself, is a Facebook going to partner with a Bitcoin? No, there's no programmability there. Are they going to partner with an ETH 1.0? No. The fees cripple the blockchain. The fees make it unworkable for the user base of a platform like Facebook. Are they going to partner with a BNB that's already kind of getting in trouble with the regulators? No. They've got enough regulatory heat on them already. Next up is Cardano. Cardano is not in trouble with the regulators. Cardano is written in a functional programming language that we already know Facebook kind of likes. And Cardano's not broken by fees. And we're pretty far along. We're pretty close to Hydra, which would maybe make it workable for the immense number of users that Facebook would bring to a blockchain like Cardano. This is all the crazy, unfounded speculation. But these are the kind of things that will happen in crypto. Gigantic tech projects may unexpectedly adopt a blockchain. And as I go through the list, it's not hard to imagine them choosing Cardano out of the possible alternatives. Something to think about, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.